Aloha, my name is Makoto Hashimoto, and this is a presentation for English 101. For this presentation, I will talk about my research paper, Power of Long-Lasting Tradition. Before I start the actual presentation, let me explain what I included in the presentation. First is introduction. I will talk about who the author Shirley Jackson is and what the story I chose, the lottery, is talking about, and most importantly, thesis statement. Then I will talk about the main contents, such as how I prove the arguments in the thesis statement, and come back to the thesis and give conclusion. Okay, let's get started. Who is the author? The author of the story is Shirley Hardy Jackson. She was an American writer, known for her works of horror and mystery. Over the duration of her writing career, which spanned over 2 decades, she composed 6 novels, 2 memoirs, and more than 200 short stories. She was born on December 14, 1916, and died on August 8, 1965. What is the story about? The story I chose for this paper is called The Lottery, and it was written in June 26, 1948. This is a story of a village, which has a tradition of lottery every year. Every single villagers gather together in the square on the day of lottery. Each family draw a lot in order to choose one family from the village. Then all members in the family draw a lot to choose one from the family. Then every single villagers, including small children, hold a stone in their hands and throw it to the person who is chosen. This is the story of a village with a terrifying tradition. The reason why I chose this story is I really like this story, especially the mysterious ending. It catches me when I read it. And here is the thesis statement of my paper. In The Lottery, Shirley Jackson argues that long-lasting traditions have power to make people blind and lose their common sense through the fear of change their lives, the group psychology that others do the same, and the culture that people cannot go against those in power. For this research paper, I researched and studied 3 perspectives to prove the arguments, and which are the fear of change their lives, the group psychology, the culture that people cannot go against those in power. The first perspective is the fear of change. People tend to be afraid of changing themselves and the environment around them. The author shows how people try to change the culture many times in the story, but each time their opinions are erased or disappear. At the same time, there are many depictions of people fearing change. One of the examples is the scene that Old Man Warner talks about the northern village. He says, "First thing you know, we'd all be eating sealed chickweed and acorns. There's always been a lottery." He suggests that people didn't have much food before they started the tradition. Some people have tried to give an opinion to stop or change the culture with courage. But the failures of the past, the failures of others, and the possible bad future ahead of change have become great fears in people's minds, and it deprives the opinion of making change. Also, they are afraid that changing and bending tradition would break their relationship with the others, leaders, and the ancestors who built the village they admire. Those fears prevent the villagers from making the right choices. The second perspective is group psychology. Humans have a habit of imitating what others do, whether the action is good or bad, and it is called group psychology. This principle is one of the most important principles in analyzing this story, The Lottery. The author says the children had stones already, and someone gave little Davy Hutchinson few pebbles. At the end of the story, everyone holds stones in their hand and throw them to Tessie Hutchinson, who is chosen by the lottery. in common sense, not only killing people, but also hurting others, making others uncomfortable, or throwing stones at others are bad things, and are often criminalized. But people in the village do those things. It is because everyone does the same. Even though they know it is not right, they keep doing the tradition because of the group psychology. The last perspective is go against those in power. In some ages and countries, it is taboo to defy those in power, and it is part of the common sense and culture to obey them in everything. Mr. Summers in the village has an influence, and he manages the bad tradition in the story. Mr. Summers says, "Guess we better get started, get this over with, so we can go back to work." When a person in the position of a village leader speaks such strong or coercive words, how many people can say no? Especially in such a small village, there are almost none. When Tessie Hutchinson, who is selected by lottery at the end of the story, disputes the outcome of the lottery and the way the lottery is done, no one agrees what she is saying. From this, it can be seen that the leader's words are obsolete and no one can dispute. The author shows that there is a risk of misusing power to force people to do what is wrong or what they do not want. In conclusion, Shirley Jackson appeals to readers about the power of long-lasting tradition and its impact on people with three perspectives through writing the lottery. First one is the fear of change, the human beings who are afraid of change and try to keep the status quo. Second one is the justification of behavior by group psychology. And the last one is that the coercive force given by those in power causes people to act against their wishes. From these points, the author shows that long-lasting traditions have the effect of depriving people of the ability to see things correctly, blinding them, and causing them to do wrong things against their will. This is my presentation, and mahalo.